live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, live on Sleepless with Steve, with the third different software trying to make this show work seamlessly, efficiently, and time-consuming effectively. I'm Steve Pulaski, coming to you live and in living color. Dominic Guanzon in the blue polo. Joe Viso, of course, sporting the hoodie, sporting the Marvel placard on the back wall over there. This is Sleepless with Steve. Every Wednesday night at 8, we come to you live with some movie reviews, some movie news, and rain, cold, snow, heat, whatever the case may be. I think a third, 2/3 of the country has got snow now or something like that. Even our neighbors to the south, something ridiculous. We living in Illinois. We've been in the negatives for like the last 2 weeks. It's been utterly brutal. And I know like every year there's like an unwritten saying that like Midwesterners shouldn't complain about the snow because it happens every year. But no cap over here. I cannot remember a stretch of, I don't know about you guys, and Dom, you're a little bit older. I can't remember a stretch of like brutal cold and like 2 to 4 inches of snow every other day. I mean, this has been going on 2 weeks now. This has been going on almost over 2 weeks.
It was less so like, it's not like snowpocalypse where literally snow just dumped overnight. That much, I forget how much snowpocalypse was of like 2010 or something. 12, yeah, 11, something like that.
11,
thank you.
That's right. But like you're right. It's a stretch. So it's like just a marathon of snow. And the first day I was like, this isn't that bad. But then by like a week in, I'm like, yeah, dude, this freaking sucks. Like I couldn't even get my car out of the parking lot, which is a bunch of other problems with residential areas. People not parking on the side of this, only on one side of the street. But yeah, it's pretty not great. Also, compounding that is that, like the past several, like 5 winters have actually been very tame by comparison, I think, or something like that. Sure. So like we've been due for this for a long time. And I think people are just like remembering like, oh yeah, no, this is how bad it can get. There were like some polar vortexes, but in terms of snow, yeah, sorry, Joe, go ahead.
I was gonna say the polar vortex was probably the worst thing that's happened to me recently with winters in terms of like living in the Midwest.
And they were bad.
Yeah.
And that was like a 2-day thing, though.
Yeah, and that didn't involve any snow. It was just temperature being really cold.
Yeah, the high, I remember this we were talking about a couple years ago. The high was like -23. That was the high. That's not the wind chill. The wind chill was about -52. And it was miserable. But it was only like 2 days, 2-3 days of extreme cold, and then it kind of plateaued. This is just like every day it's like 3 degrees is the high, -20 wind chill. Then at night, -8. Like it's been brutal, and like it's hard on cars. It's hard on cars, especially outdoor cars. Like my poor Accord over here. Like we're just trying to survive it the best we can.
Pencil thick is the water. When you turn on your faucets. Now I thought it was a drip. Apparently, it's supposed to be pencil thick. So keep that in mind, particularly if you live in Texas. People are giving Texas shit because it's like, oh, you can't handle like so-and-so snow and so-and-so cold. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. Poke a little fun at them at that. But like, it's the fact that they don't have power and that people are like, and like pipes are bursting because they don't have the proper infrastructure in place to handle this much snow. That's where it sucks. Now, you can make fun of Texas politicians for not anticipating to insulate their natural gas pipelines because they wanted to go cheapo on thinking ahead. And now because of that, millions of people don't have heat. But that's a politician thing. So.
Yeah. No, we can joke about it all you want, but like, no, I mean, the privatized grid system to begin with, if you've read about that, is just asinine and is a whole other compounding problem. But like Dom just said, like houses
Public
aren't
works
insulated.
my ass.
Houses aren't insulated in Texas to handle that kind. Like out here, they are because it's a yearly occurrence.
Now, Georgia, like whatever, how many years ago, and we'll end on this because I know we want to get to movies, but like Georgia getting like 1 inch of snow and then there were like fires on the highway. Okay, that was funny.
Yeah.
No, that was always funny.
Yeah, and like the old joke now that's going around the internet, Texas shut down quicker for 2 inches of snow than the coronavirus, but that's neither here nor there. Trudeau.
Oh my
Trudeau
God.
like Justin. Anyway, moving forward. You see what I did there? Moving forward, we got a handful of stuff to talk about today. I'm going to end the show with a solo review of Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, which I should have made these two gentlemen watch because I got a lot of good stuff to say about Barb and Star. Cannot wait.
That would have been a fantastic double feature. Judas and the Black Messiah. Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
Oh God!
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, let's follow it up with the whitest movie of all time. No, I got a lot to talk about with Barb and Star. We'll save that for the end. Big review today, Judas and the Black Messiah on HBO Max now for a month. It's in theaters too. It's on HBO Max, I believe, until the 14th of March. So you got some time to watch that if you desire, and we'll get into that soon. But we're going to start with this, not really an uplifting story to begin the show with. A little slight on movie news, and I didn't really want to talk about Scorsese making good points and having Twitter trash him about the future of cinema either. I really didn't want to go down that route for this show because I'm tired.
About something again recently?
Yeah, he went on about how he was talking about like how he hates the corporate structure of movies now and how like movies are being referred to as content on streaming services.
Oh wow.
He thinks that. And he went out on that, and then it's like, haha, and then like, the Twitter crowd, haha, old man who makes mob movies doesn't know what content means. Like, but we're going to save that. Let's talk about something even more upsetting, though. Bam Margera in the news, and that usually doesn't spell good things as of late. You always have to be sensitive when tackling these kinds of subjects. I learned that when Ryan Dunn died about a decade ago. Like trying to make a video on that when I was far younger and more inexperienced and whatnot. You have to tackle these videos, or you tackle these topics with, a certain degree of couth and a certain degree of, respect. And I'll say this right now, people roll their eyes. I grew up with Jackass. I watched Jackass way younger than I should have. I think all of us did in some ways. You already know. So like, I felt like I grew connected to these guys. You know what I mean? Watching the movies, watching the show, grew connected to them, in some way. Like, I was like, these guys feel just like me and my buddies. You know what I mean? Doing stupid, filming it, and doing, you know what I mean? Upping the ante. So I hate when I read unfortunate things about them. And unfortunately, Bam Margera has clearly not been in a good place for some time now. And it really sort of spiraled about a decade ago when Ryan Dunn died in that car accident. And it's hard to believe Ryan Dunn's been dead for 10 years, but that's neither here nor there at the same time. Bam Margera entered rehab back in 2015, again in 2017, again in 2018, and even sought help from Dr. Phil in 2019, if you remember that. Remember that whole escapade. But
oh, yeah.
On February 11th, so just a little under a week ago, Bam went on an Instagram tirade aimed towards Jackass directors Jeff Tremaine and Spike Jonze. Fun fact, Spike Jonze also directed Her with Joaquin Phoenix. I feel like people forget that. And Johnny Knoxville as well was another subject of his tirade regarding his alleged firing. Now, it looks like he did get fired from the production of Jackass 4, because it's a little hard if you've seen the video. The video has since been deleted from Bam's Instagram account, but you can find it through the wonders of the internet. Nothing's ever really gone. But this was troubling, to say the least. And it was hard. At first, it was hard for me to believe he got fired just because of the state he was in that video. Clearly drunk, clearly intoxicated, vomiting. I mean, it's not a pretty video. It's a tough 3 minutes to watch, to say the least. But he talks about Paramount Pictures, who's obviously the owner of the Jackass brand. And Jackass 4 is set for a September release. I better get this damn vaccine by then because I want to see this in theaters. But that's neither here nor there at the same time. But Paramount's was putting him, I guess, through the ringer in terms with sobriety testing, urine tests, antidepressants, rehab counseling, and different things in order for him to be a part of Jackass 4. Well, he finally made this video going off and blasting Jeff Tremaine, blasting Spike Jonze, Johnny Knoxville, Paramount Pictures, in just an ugly video, to say the least. And then the following day, he followed it up with another video of him in a totally kind of different state. Didn't look great, but in a different state, talking about how he was seeing a bipolar counselor. And I don't know now. Like, this is a fluid situation. That's why I almost didn't want to talk about it, but I feel it bears mentioning. I don't know if he's going to be in it. Like, you don't really know yet. It depends, because the thing is set to release in September. It was supposed to come out last year, and they're filming it now. So you don't really know, though, if he's going to come back for it or whatnot. And Jackass 4, I mean, it's been speculated. It's been, 11 years since the last one came out, since Jackass 3D. I think it's been 11 years. And it was always expected. It was always expected or believed that Jackass 4 was going to be an homage to Ryan Dunn. There was even rumors that the movie was going to be called Jackass 4 We're Not Done, DUNN Yet. It was originally supposed to be, that was going to be the working title, was We're Not Done Yet. And it's going to be tough to like have a Ryan Dunn tribute without his best friend. I'll say that much, or have kind of the ethos of that there. But it's heartbroken. Bam hasn't been right in years. And before I throw it over to you, Dom, I'll say this too, because I was talking to Joe about the video earlier. And like, you know what he looks like in that video? He looks just like his father. He looks just like his father. He looks just like his uncle, Don Vito. If you remember the ignominious Don Vito, Vincent
on the
Margera.
toilet,
Yes.
being beat up slapped around by his son.
That's his father. His uncle, though, Don Vito, the one that got like blackballed for molesting those girls.
Oh,
Don Vito, Vincent Margera. Look it up. That's a forgotten story.
We had, I don't know about you, Joe, but Steve and I have very fond memories of Jackass. But the truth is, it's like a really tragic like story surround. Like, there's hardly any happy endings here, or at least happy stories necessarily. So Johnny Knoxville was always the face of the brand, and many times the de facto leader. But he was always suffering massive injuries to like his freaking testicles or whatever, or just massive concussions from boxers. And then Steve-O was like the success story, and not more so in like just his recovery. But Bam is like, is it wrong to say the troubled genius of it all, or maybe not so much genius, but just kind of for whatever reason at the center, in a weird way to put it. Maybe that's the wrong description, but really just Bam has always been there. He was doing Jackass things way back with CKY, Jackass-esque things, and just like skateboarding videos and doing really dumb ass shit on camera for CKY and a bunch of other stuff. So he's really kind of the progenitor of all of that. But it's always been an up and down. He's always been in that reality TV show spotlight, for better or for worse. Like he wasn't his like Bam's Unholy Matrimony or something.
Bam's Unholy Union.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like even like his marriage and stuff like that was always under the camera spotlight. So he's just kind of had that attention kind of aspect to him. I'm not going to say an attention whore necessarily, but more so just like the camera's just been there on record, or in this case on live now, pretty much his entire life, metaphorically speaking. But it's that alone takes its toll on you. Just being raised in that spotlight, that having always been your job pretty much. And just kind of having that aesthetic of this, slacker, kind of counterculture, kind of trash kind of thing. But then when your best friend dies, and in a very unceremonious, or maybe, how do I put it? Like, it wasn't Ryan Dunn, either himself or the person he was with was drunk driving, right?
Ryan Dunn was, I think, more than twice the legal limit drunk driving.
Yeah, so like he was at fault there, right? So that has an aspect to it. It's not like he died in a very heroic fashion or whatever. It's like he freaking died,
It wasn't Paul Walker, where he was just a passenger in a car accident.
Yeah, he was at fault. So it's like you kind of hold that to him as well. Like that'll always stick with you. And even 10 years on, that's freaking trauma there, dude. It's hard. It cuts deep. And it's clearly taken its toll. Who are we to say? Because, behind the cameras might be a different story. But it's hard to really say a behind the camera with Bam Margera, because he's always been in front of it. So it's sad. I freaking love the Jackass movies, dude. I just love that content. But I still get fond memories of those old MTV sketches. Hearing that guitar riff, like that opening, it brings like warmness to my heart. And they've had a massive influence on all sorts of YouTubers and content creators. Joe and I love Mega 64. Those dudes are like, those are the children of Jackass, more or less. And I love Mega 64. So seeing Bam like this, like kind of one of the granddaddies of his genre, it's just really sad to see. So where it's going to go from here, I have no freaking clue. I just hope for the best because the whole situation has been sad since Dunn died. Things were looking up. He's like, oh, Steve-O recovered. Johnny Knoxville's like he's doing a movie with Jackie Chan. But like, so it's another low. Hopefully this rock bottom so that we can see our way back up. But I don't know.
Before
tough,
we
man.
pong to Joe, I just want to say this too, because my mother's probably watching this. The Jackass, the first movie, came out in 2002, and that was my introduction to it. I saw the first movie before I really saw the show, and I remember I was at my aunt's house, and 2003, and I was 7, and I remember they were watching it. Just my aunt, uncle, bunch. They were having a party, and it was on. They put it on or whatever, and I remember sitting there, and I remember I was like, my mother, I was like, this is Jackass, and I'm watching it. She's letting me watch it and whatever, and we went to Family Video that week, and she rented the VHS tape, Jackass the movie, for me. And I remember years ago, I asked my mother, I said, why did you let me watch that at 7 years old? And I remember my mother once, she goes, well, you and your friends were probably going to just like run around, do stupid stuff and hit each other in the nuts anyway. Like, I didn't think it was that bad.
And that's kind of like the heart of it. That's why Jackass has such an appeal, because, there's the pranks, there's the injuries, whatever, but around that, just a bunch of friends having fun and laughing at each other. And that's, if it was just in isolation, okay, he got hit, cut. No, he got hit and everyone is laughing at him and he's laughing too. If they're not writhing in pain, they're laughing too. And that's, everyone can kind of relate to that.
Even more.
Exactly. It's dumb, stupid fun with friends. That's the key to it.
And the stunts are designed to fail to begin with. Like, there's no success.
The rocket skates.
The rocket skates in the first movie. And then I always remember the essence of Jackass is Ryan Dunn jumping over a ramp and falling into a cactus with Preston Lacey tied to him. And he falls in the cactus and just goes, what a dumbass idea. That's the essence of Jackass. Joe, your thoughts on this whole Bam Margera tirade, however?
I mean, like, you guys were basically hitting everything I want to hit on. It's sad to see. I did grow up watching Jackass, more so on MTV. Okay. I didn't get to see the movies until the third one was coming out. Then I finally got around to seeing the movies because my mom wouldn't let me go see those because she thought I would do the dumb shit you would see in those movies.
You had a responsible mother. No disrespect, Mom.
So I would watch it in secret on MTV whenever I could, and I loved watching it. And I understood just don't do it. And I looked at it like Tom and Jerry. Don't do that. I looked at it as like the Looney Tunes, but in live action is what these guys were doing. Because you see some of the stuff they would do, like. I will never forget. When I went to go see Jackass 3 with my friends in theaters, and we snuck in. My friend turned to me and he was like, "Why would he do this porta potty thing? It's obviously gonna get like crap covered all over him." Like, that's the point. That's the art of it, is that they're gonna do it and they're brave enough to do it and dumb enough even to do it sometimes. It's a lot of fun. But in terms of this Bam drama that's going on right now, it's sad to see, man. Dom hit it right on the head. He was always in front of the spotlight off of Jackass. He had his own show. He was constantly helping with the Tony Hawk video games. He was in some sort of spotlight at some point constantly in a party culture and like just being in front of the camera constantly. That yeah, man, I'm not surprised he grew an addiction, and it's sad to say that. It sucks to say that. I'm glad that, people like Steve-O have managed to get out of their addiction and stay strong. That is amazing. And I just wish the same could happen to Bam, because the other guys and even Steve-O says later on in this article that you can find on comicbook.com, he says, should a bunch of 40 and something, maybe even 50 cases, 50-year-old have be doing this movie? And it's just like, probably not, but like, that's what's gonna make it fun, is to see if they can do it. I hate to say that, but like that is what's gonna make it fun. And Knoxville did say the older you get, the funnier it is. So it's just like, I want to see this happen. I would love for the bunch to be there, but do I agree with them cutting him out of the set? Kinda, I do, because it's like, listen, Bam, you gotta get your shit together, man. It sucks, because he's been a pioneer there since day one, and if he writes sketches and they're gonna use them and they're just not even gonna have him in the film whatsoever, that sucks. I know they're only a week into filming and whatnot, and it sucks they would do that to him, but it's just like, Bam, this is for your own good, man. Like, and when you watch that Instagram video, if you find it through Reddit or whatever, it just shows you like, no, they're in the right here by cutting him loose, because he has to fix himself. This is awful. Like, just the way he looks, and especially how that video ends, it's just like, it's not a sight to see for anybody like that you're fond of, especially for us who like grew up watching all of them when we were kids and just see him grow older. Like, I'm glad to see like Knoxville, like his acting career is okay at best, like in terms of like the roles he gets and whatnot. I wish he got way more, because to me the guy deserves it. And then like Steve-O redeeming himself, and then like the others as well, just like over time, like just staying stable. I just wish the same could happen to Bam. And it's not saying like the guy hasn't gone through hardships, because we've touched on it with Ryan and just like his upbringing and everything. Like, it's hard, man, and I'm hoping the best for him.
I hope Steve, I don't know what the relationships are like behind the scenes, but I hope Steve-O of all people reaches out to him, just because he's a addict recoverer, and he's been through that gauntlet.
He was on heroin.
He shares. Yeah, he shared. Damn, that's a deep one, dude. And like, he shares kind of that pain. Maybe not as much as Bam, but they all did with Dunn's death, and it's just weird looking back on that footage now. But dude, you know what? I hope let's end on a happy note with this segment. One of my, can we like just quickly mention favorite Jackass sketches? My personal favorite one that sticks out to me right now is what's it, like office skateboarding or whatever, or like business skateboarding. They're in a skate park doing tricks, I think with Tony Hawk, but they're in office chairs instead of skateboards, and they're just like falling over, because obviously office chairs were not meant to handle that kind of abuse and trickery. So I swear to God, if you look up the clip on YouTube, they do like generic. I think we just lost Steve, but they do like generic. Maybe his video. But they do like generic garage rock music. But I swear, I remember them doing 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton, and they probably couldn't get the rights. But just them in office suits doing like tricks on office chairs while 9 to 5 is playing always stuck out to me. I don't know why.
Can you see me or not? Because I can see myself.
Yes, we got you now.
Okay, that was odd. Yeah, as far as favorite Jackass sketches go, I grew up more with the movies than I did with the series. But I always like the first stunt, if you don't count the shopping cart intro of the first movie, the rent a car crash derby. When he rents a car and then they remod it and everything, and then they destroy it in like a demolition derby, and then he comes back and tells the dude he hit a dog. That was always my favorite, personally. That was the one I always went back to growing up and such. And Joe, will end it. Your favorite Jackass sketch, or the one that comes to mind for you?
The one from Jackass 3 is probably just a personal favorite, because I got to see this one in theaters, of course. The one where they're on like the seesaws, the 4-way seesaw, and the bulls are coming at him. They have to avoid them and lower the other person. It's just like, that is totally like a thing, like just to screw over your friend. I'm gonna like purposely just launch up and that bull's coming at him. It is like that to me perfectly encapsulates what Jackass is about.
That's not a game you win. That's a game where you have the other person lose.
Yeah, for real.
Oh my God.
100%. Glad we got to talk about it. Wish Bam Margera well, unironically, man. Hope even if he's not in Jackass 4, if he gets clean and has a good, stable life, like that accounts for more than anything. Because it's hard. I mean, growing up, you're a star from being young. You're doing stuff that's going to hurt you. He's a skateboarder too. You're doing stunts and skateboarding tricks that are going to hurt you and stuff like that. So what do you look towards? Booze, Vicodin, Xanax, pills, all this other stuff, and the accessibility is outrageous. You got more money than you know what to do with, and pretty soon your career outpaces your own personal maturity and growth. You know, I mean, he's basically a child star. I know he started like in his late teens and his 20s, but like he's basically was a child star. I mean, those guys were very young when Jackass
And his
came
shtick
out.
was doing childish. His shtick was doing childish things, living out the childhood fantasy of getting hurt with your friends and just doing stupid stuff outside. So yeah, that's always been a part of it.
We'll move forward, though. We got a movie to talk about, Judas and the Black Messiah. A lofty one, to say the least. We're going to dive into this. I'll start by saying this. The titular allegory of this movie, of Judas and the Black Messiah, the new Shaka King movie, is fascinating. And how it's, you know, just to give a, you know, without going into a plot description, the Black Messiah is Fred Hampton, the chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party in the late 60s, in this case, 1968. The Judas figure is William O'Neill, who's a petty thief plucked from the streets, committing different crimes and whatever, and used as an FBI informant to get information on Hampton and the Black Panthers in the late 60s. This is necessary Chicago history and American history we didn't, you probably hardly learned about growing up. But in the Bible, Judas reveals Jesus's whereabouts to those who want him gone, and gets, I think, silver in return. I'm not a biblical expert, but I believe it's silver.
I think 13 pieces of silver or 30 pieces of silver. Yeah.
30 pieces of silver. That's what it is. The same happens here. And it kind of, you know, to a degree, where, and the other thing, the kind of point I'm making about this, though, is that like Shaka King and Will Burson, the writers, they don't overplay this allegory, which I love. There's no like explanation or like title card or whatever. Like it just lets you figure that out, even if you don't know the story. And I kind of tangentially did going into this, but this is a movie really, and I'll turn it over to Joe after this. This is a movie about a not so distant past that contextualizes the present day. And I think the most recent point of comparison would probably be the trial of the Chicago 7 in different ways, in how it shows a historical event from the past that kind of contextualizes what's happening today. And it vividly shows the dangers of a police state where nobody is safe, especially political movements and pro-Black political movements too. There's a lot to dive into this. Daniel Kaluuya, Lakeith Stanfield star in this. Dominique Fishback, who you might recognize, I don't know if you guys might recognize from Project Power. She's in this. There's a lot to dig into about this. Jesse Plemons as well. Joe, your sort of general thoughts, though, on Judas and the Black Messiah.
My sort of thoughts, I mean, going into this is actually, I knew about somewhat of the Black Panther movement in Chicago going into this movie, because back in high school we had to write a paper talking about Black history, basically, like a really like light topic of it, and I'm talking light. Like the school just like it was the most easiest assignment. I think it was even an extra credit assignment, if I'm recalling correctly. And I needed the extra credit. I was at a B and I wanted an A in the class because I wasn't doing too hot in high school, so like every A I could get would help. So like I was looking up like Black history in this country, and I found about the Black Panther Party, at least like, you know, that whole house that was in Chicago. And I researched this, and I will never forget this. I brought this up to my history teacher, and I was like, how come we don't talk about like Fred Hampton in our history class and like that whole movement that was happening in Chicago? And I went to a Catholic school, and my history teacher, who was very much a hippie growing up and very much cared about, like, you know, like marching with Martin Luther King and all that stuff, and was totally behind the Black Panthers, but she just didn't want to outright say it. Went, Joe, if you look around the classroom, you'll find out why we can't talk about this in this subject. And like, to me, it's just like mad respect to her from day one onward. But Judas and the Black Messiah,
wow,
it is like that should show you like it is a piece of history that should be talked about, because like to me it was that important to bring up, and that she even agreed with me, but told me like why we can't talk about it, because it is a sensitive subject. It is about the Black Panthers. Before I ever researched about the Black Panthers, to me, I thought they kind of wore like the troublemaking group of, and this is young me, this is not me now, let me make that clear before I'm canceled on Twitter. I thought they were like a troublemaking group. That, yeah, they were for like, you know, the rights of the Black people and like, you know, the freedom of speech and all that. They were like behind all that and whatnot. But I thought they were doing very like horrible things. And like the movie also, I will get to this later, the movie doesn't shy away from some of the terrible things they do, but this movie shows you that no, especially the Chicago chapter, they were trying to do something there. They were actually trying to unite Chicago. Fred Hampton was going out there and he was trying to unite not only the black community but the Hispanic community and the what's it called, I don't want to say like
Gang members or
no, like indigenous, something about white people. I forgot what the term was called.
Yeah, like that Confederates,
Confederate
flag.
People, sure. Disenfranchised is the word I was
Disenfranchised, there you go.
Disenfranchised white people. He was actually uniting all these people to come together in Chicago and do something, come together and work together to rebuild their community and everything. And the reason he was called the Black Messiah to someone like J. Edgar Hoover, who's played wonderfully by Martin Sheen in this movie, is because he saw that as a threat, that he's taking all these people and that he is going to unite them and they are going to turn against us. That is like why he was considered the Black Messiah, and that is why they went to infiltrate, and that is why, I won't spoil what happens at the end of this movie, but ultimately what does happen. I mean, the movie is called Judas and the Black Messiah, so you kind of guess where this is going, unfortunately. But yeah, this is a very important movie to talk about, and a ton of great roles played by wonderful actors. Dom, your thoughts?
Dude, looking at this movie, I was thinking like, man, we've gotten so many of these movies lately. So is it wearing out? Is it wearing itself out? Are we inundating ourselves with too much wokeness and too much of the same civil rights, and FBI is doing whatever? And then like when you get into it, it's like, nah, we've barely scratched the surface, dude. This is not even the beginning. Like this is where we should have started, because so much of this stuff, the movie, of course, like all historical based movies, there are some liberties taken for the sake of the arts, but you just can't get around it, man. The FBI's COINTEL program, the counterintelligence program run by J. Edgar Hoover, his kind of crowning achievement, was some evil ass Nazi Gestapo level shit. It sounds like I'm stretching, I'm making a big deal out of it, but that is really what it was.
You remember the first time you read about that stuff too. Like this is the kind of stuff
amazing.
This is the stuff you were told happens in like the USSR, and this was America. Yeah,
it's the stuff that the USSR was like, well, you guys do that too. I'm like, nah, you're just, oh shit. But it's really like awe-inspiring, just like sitting back and going, holy shit, they really did send a suicide letter to the king. Like, holy shit, they really did like really fucking pound hard on Malcolm X, or like, yeah, they really like straight up assassinated Fred Hampton. It is astounding just how deep the rabbit hole goes, to the point where like the last, oh my god, is that the guy, the FBI director who was under Trump before he got fired, and James Comey, he was like, yeah, those were the dark days of the FBI that we don't really talk about. It's like, oh shit, he just straight up admits it right there, essentially. And the point where we're there, like with it, and it's like everyone just knew, especially all the black and brown people. They were like, yeah, we've known about this shit for years. Y'all just catching up. But anyway, talking about the movie itself, I really, really enjoyed the allegory here and the parallels to its biblical title, and they really can't overplay it, because it is a betrayal of epic proportions, going just how, like, this is easily one of the greatest like undercover operations in the history of the United States, just in terms of how high up this dude went. Like literally in charge of security for Fred freaking Hampton, and just taking down one of the central radical movements of the 1960s, more radical than King, who's far more radical than we realize, and yeah, in some respects, Malcolm X to a degree, which was also happening at the same time. Like looking at all these movies, right? One Night in Miami, Trial of Chicago 7, like, yeah, this was all happening in a period of like 7 or 8 years, and you don't even realize it. Yeah. It really was. It like it feels like an apocalypse if you're a middle class white American, right? It's like, oh, too much change. They're asking to like sit in the same bus. But anyway, it's
My water
it
fountain.
really, yeah. But again, going back to the movie itself, it cannot be overstated that the central part of this movie is. I would say the main character really is Lakeith Stanfield's Bill O'Neill. Then very much close behind it, just the standout performance here by Daniel Kaluuya's Fred Hampton, and just the back and forth, the deep psychological study here between these two, is just worth the watch alone. I do think the pace of the movie does run into some interesting, like very hard to state dips towards the maybe like halfway through and 2/3 through the movie, but we'll go into that a little bit later. But I think I'll pass it on to Steve for now.
Yeah, I was going to say to Joe's point, too, I don't want to go down this because I want to talk about the movie, but it's hard not to talk about the movie, or it's hard to talk about the movie without talking about the history. But like to Joe's point, too, I feel like there's always this false equivalency where like the Black Panthers are equated like, oh, that's the Black KKK.
Yeah.
And that's not true. That's not remotely true. The Black Panthers aren't all angels, and they even show in this movie. But you cannot say that with any degree of seriousness that the Black Panthers are on the level of the KKK.
That's
like
show me where David Duke feeds 3,000. Show me where David Duke feeds 3,000 starving kids. And then you can make that comparison. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that in school, that's just how I always interpreted it from what I read and what I was told.
No, I agree.
It's just like,
I agree.
It wasn't until like I said, I had to do that paper and I really researched. I'm like, oh my god, I've been white historied. Like I was told one side.
I'll say this though, it's a sign of progress that this pro-radical, nonconformist movie with characters condoning violent revolution is being released by a major studio. I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about that, but this is Warner. And this movie would have went to theater, or is in theaters, but it would have had a greater release had it not been for the pandemic. This is big for a major studio to back this thing. Like, I understand that people want, leaps of progress here, but I mean, this is some level of progress when you get a movie like this that's not like an indie underground thing that 20 people, including the three of us, are going to see. Like, this is a mainstream movie about the Black Panthers, and a good one, too. That's getting a lot of good praise. Tom said it, though, too. Lakeith Stanfield is the main character here, and I got some issues with his character I'll talk about later. Daniel Kaluuya could win the Oscar for this movie, for this performance, and if so, he deserves it. I've loved Daniel Kaluuya since Get Out. I love his reactive face. I know that's a weird thing, but he's got those eyes, and he's got that smirk and that shrug. He's got this presence I love. But here, he's like stone-faced and iron-fisted. It's another version of him we haven't seen yet, and he's still a young actor. Still doesn't have a ton of roles. But his best moments are like two different kinds. When he's leading those rallies, and they're just so intensely focused on him, and he commands the energy. You can hear a pin drop. The other scenes I loved are when he's with Dominique Fishback, his girlfriend, Deborah. Because Deborah loves him, but doesn't think of him as infallible. Like, she'll call him out, and she'll question him and his intentions. And, like, how are you going to lead a revolution when you're about to become a father? And certain things of grounding him. And it's a very beautiful relationship, the two of them. Kaluuya and Fishback have a really nice chemistry here that I like a lot. But I guess the ultimate problem, I'll toss it back over to Joe. The problem that I have with it, with the overall movie, is that I wanted more Hampton and less O'Neill. And I know that you can't tell this story without William O'Neill. And I'm not saying you do. But they didn't make O'Neill very exciting or very relatable. And the movie takes, in my opinion, a real dip in being compelling when it focuses on him, because we don't really penetrate his personality quite as much as we do Hampton. And it's no discredit to Lakeith Stanfield. I just don't think he's given a great deal to work with. And I think it's also part of the thing or part of the aspect where it's like, I've seen so many FBI movies as of recently. I'd rather watch the guy the FBI is trying to hunt down than the FBI doing their usual business. I realize you can't tell this story without O'Neill's perspective, but the movie is at its absolute best when Hampton is the focal point.
I'll piggyback off of that because you actually have the same criticism I do with this movie. I do like this movie a lot, but out of the movies that we've been watching, like that recently that have been dealing with this subject in the same like period of time as well, One Night in Miami so far has been my favorite. Then Trial of Chicago 7. This one is my least favorite of the three that we've like seen so far, and that is because I feel like when you get to the second act of this movie and Hampton goes to prison, it kind of takes a dip in quality. And I'm not saying quality like, you know, it's like, oh, it's bad now. It's just like it was gunning and running. I mean, it was hitting every note really good. The scenes that O'Neill and Hampton have together, like Steve was saying, were really good and interesting to see how he infiltrated and everything. And especially, yeah, like we said when we watched Power, Dominique Fishback, she was a great actress in that movie. And we're like, oh, we hope to see her in more things. Here we go. She was great as basically Fred Hampton's like lover, or like, you know, was going to be wife at some point. And they have great chemistry together. Anytime they're on screen together, I mean, like, it's very heartwarming to see and everything, and only just even more tragic when you get to the end of this movie as well. But to me, yeah, when Hampton goes to prison for like the 5 years he spent in prison for a bogus thing that happened to him, we just focus on O'Neill, the movie kind of feels disjointed, and that we're just seeing just scenarios of the Black Panther play out. And it's just like, this isn't really much. We're seeing a shootout with the police. We're seeing another shootout with the police. And we're seeing O'Neill just talk to Jesse Plemons, who's also really good in this movie. And that's about it. Like, the scenes don't really add to anything, I really think, in the second act. And it kind of felt like the movie was slowing down. Now, when Hampton re-enters the picture, and we get the amazing scene where he's in front of everybody in this church and saying, the famous quote that that you can find the picture of him like there. I am the revolution, I think.
I am a revolutionary.
I am a revolutionary. That scene, I mean, like, again, like I said, the third act picks up, takes off again, and it's really due to Daniel Kaluuya's performance. I think compared to Get Out, this is my favorite performance of his. He is outstanding in this, and anytime he's on screen, I was captured by his performance. Lakeith Stanfield is good. I love Lakeith Stanfield. I love everything I've seen him in. But yeah, here it's just he doesn't have much to work with. The movie almost like doesn't really give O'Neill anything outside of a great opening scene he has, where he hustles a car out of some people. It's a great opening scene, and after that, it feels like O'Neill never really gets a moment like that, not to shine, but to really develop his character even more.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just mentioning these actors, like, they could not have picked two actors that express more with their eyes than freaking Kaluuya and Stanfield. Like, those two, when those two cry, or like even just like emote, it's all in the eyes and just their massive freaking eyes, dude. I don't know, but it's effective. Here's where I'll do a slight dissent, but I kind of in agreement too, because yeah, I agree. When Kaluuya leaves, it's almost like mirroring what happens in real life. Like, yeah, when Kaluuya went to jail, the Black Panthers, took a hit. This movie does take a hit too when he does go to jail. So if anything, it's just being historically accurate. No, but it's interesting. It's like I really do like the approach. I kept on thinking back because it's a Judas and Jesus-esque relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the movie does. That's what you could easily parallel in real life as well. And any Judas and Jesus relationship, I have not seen that done better than in Jesus Christ Superstar. If you have watched that musical, I love that musical, and it's one of my top musicals of all time. And the Judas is the central character in that movie, with Jesus right behind it, but Judas is clearly front and center, and where the most development happens, whereas Jesus is just being Jesus. But he never really does develop. You explore his emotions. Same with Kaluuya's Hampton. But Jesus is very static and solid in where he stands as a character. But Judas is where the real interesting, development happens. And Judas and the Black Messiah, this movie was was kind of getting to that aspect too. The problem is, and I do love that approach, but the problem is, yeah, I have to agree that that approach is flawed when you just don't give Judas, when you don't give, Lakeith Stanfield enough to work with, because it's hard to miss necessarily because he does have really good moments of reaction where it's like, yeah, when he's scared, when he's developing paranoia, when he's doing all that. You feel that, and his reactions, how they film that, the sound editing they do when like the world is like closing in on him, seemingly, like it's really effective, and I enjoy those moments. But they kind of replay that like 4 or 5 times in the movie in different ways, which is cool. But you kind of need something else to mix it up, and it's hard to pin down his character's true motivation other than don't get caught.
Bingo.
Right? And maybe that's just reflective on what he was in real life. Certainly, that's during his time in the Panthers that was weighing heavily on his mind. But it's almost one note, and it's hard. And if you're gonna focus on this character and have him be one note, your movie takes a serious hit. Particularly when you have someone, your Messiah, your Jesus, your Hampton, who seemingly is much more interesting, and it's just tough. Again, I don't necessarily. I love the strategy that they laid out, and I think it could work, even if you had the exact amount of time that Kaluuya's Hampton was on screen, the exact amount of screen, the lines didn't change, But like, it's less so much that we needed more Kaluuya, and less so we needed more to do with Stanfield. Yeah. That's my approach on it.
I feel like they didn't do a great job also at portraying O'Neill, like especially towards the later half of the movie. Because at first you're like, okay, I can see how O'Neill and Hampton got along, but like as the movie went along, it's like there's a moment where like they go at each other's throats, and you're like, okay, I guess like they're not friends anymore. And then like O'Neill and him are just cool out of nowhere still, and it's just like I needed more of that, like more like just times either you guys were butting heads or like on eye-to-eye level of what you guys wanted to do for this movement and for your community. Because by the end of the movie, it's kind of like playing the card like, oh, O'Neill, like, are you actually a Black Panther? Or are you with the FBI? Or, are you an American citizen and doing your due diligence? And it's just like when we get to the end of the movie and like we're supposed to feel like, kind of like O'Neill is in a tough spot and what he has to do is tragic and we're upset with him. I didn't even feel like it was a tragic. It was just like, look, dude, I'm just upset with you that you're going through with this still. Like, it's like that. I don't have the emotional level I think the movie wants me to have there.
Now, and I'll add to that too, because there's two justifications I could make thinking of why O'Neill doesn't feel as developed. The movie opens with a dramatized reenactment of the only interview he ever gave with this PBS documentary. I believe it's called Eyes on the Prize 2. Fun fact, William O'Neill, the real-life William O'Neill, killed himself the night the documentary premiered after giving that interview. Mm-hmm. And you wonder, because that's the only public interview he ever gave. So there wasn't a lot of knowledge on him and his personality. It's not like he wrote a memoir. It's not like he wrote something or had like a tangible source of what he felt. And the movie, by all accounts, is dramatized to a degree, but it's very historically accurate by all accounts, this movie. So maybe they didn't want to do it, Shaka King and Will Burson, they didn't want to do it a disservice by maybe painting him into a corner that wasn't representative of who he was and what his true motivation is. The other justification I could make is that they maybe made O'Neill blander because they showed how easy it was for maybe somebody like O'Neill or another, like, young black male in Chicago to go through with that plan, because oh, you gotta
be kidding me. Dom, hello? All right, I'm on my own. Cool. Hopefully they'll come back in.
Army behind you, and like this is his get out of jail free card in so many ways. So like I could see that, like, that getting wrapped up. Like, you got the law on your side in that case. You know what I mean? You have like a degree of being untouchable. So I can understand the justification there, but he doesn't make for a very compelling person. And the movie is really, it's about both Hampton and O'Neill, but O'Neill is really, like, Lakeith Stanfield's really the lead here, in my opinion. Yeah. I think he's really the lead.
when Hampton goes to jail, but they don't go when the movie doesn't really go to jail with him. It really sticks with O'Neill. That's when you know he's the main character for sure. And that's when it's solidified that they're really going the kind of Jesus Christ Superstar pathway with this. And there's other movies too that do a similar kind of setup with Jesus and Judas, but I just like that movie the most. But yeah, really good points, because responding to them too is on your second point, actually, if they're talking about like, hey, anyone can get caught up in this, in the FBI's web of lies and tricks and whatever and murder, then I feel like they could have driven that point home a little bit more, because Jesse Plemons does fine here, but he feels kind of useless. I don't know if you guys felt that. He kind of felt like dead weight, just his character.
I agree. I agree. And Jesse Plemons, if you're a film fan, especially watching recent movies, you always know Jesse Plemons beyond some bullshit in these movies. He's always on game night. You know that. Like, somebody said online, this is kind of apropos of nothing. Somebody said online that Jesse Plemons has been giving good performances for so many years. He's going to win an Oscar in like 20 years for some really showy, ridiculous performance. Everybody's going to be like, dude, he's been good forever. Yeah. Like, he's been good forever.
It's true.
But he is useless here. He is kind of useless.
It feels weird too, because like with their character, like you kind of get moments where he's like, "Wow, yeah, like we're the FBI. Why are we doing something like that?" And it just goes nowhere.
Yeah, what was up with that? yeah.
Don't characterize him. At that rally. His best scenes at that rally.
Yeah,
that's his best scene.
Yes. I hate to pigeonhole Jesse Plemons, but yeah, when he's just standing there menacingly, that's like when he shoot. Like, I saw it in Game Night, and like when he's standing there menacingly looking at you, that is when Jesse Plemons shines. And I hate to pigeonhole him there, but dude, that's his strength. And I think by now he absolutely knows.
Like when his eyebrows raised at the rally when they're talking about the police, or like that's his best.
Yeah.
You're totally right.
Like functionally, his character really, I don't think, needed to exist. Certainly that there should have been like an intermediary for an FBI for the FBI there, but like just the fact that they characterize him to the extent that they do, or that they gave Jesse Plemons the role. I mean, hell, I think Jesse Plemons could have played J. Edgar Hoover, but that's a whole different thing entirely. Well, only because like Martin Sheen kept on making me think of the Cerberus dude from Mass Effect, and I couldn't shake it. But yeah, the elusive man. That's a me problem more than anything.
And he had more makeup on than Kevin Spacey.
He really just
and all the money in the world. Dude, that guy had prosthetics.
I don't know about that. I don't know about
lot.
That. But
he looked like the
he did. But yeah, it just sucks, because like those scenes with Plemons and Stanfield, and it's like it was like shooting for attention that I feel like was not there. And it's like when you have these dialogues, multiple scenes, like three or four big scenes where Plemons and Stanfield are like talking, and it's like you're really focusing on this. It should be developing Stanfield, but you're like, Plemons has so much charisma. He's kind of stealing these scenes to a degree too, when he really should be about Stanfield. So it's like, I don't know. I hate to say like Plemons is just so good. That's how he is, but like. Clearly that's a problem with the screenplay and the directing, and just again the balance here is off, and it sucks because the recipe is here for something that is truly remarkable, but it falls short. I think just based on how it balances itself out, because you have the actors, you have the subject matter of a lifetime. This is huge, man. We opened with this, and we just can't shut up about it. That this is truly history that was stepped over. This is the conspiracy shit that I wish QAnon would actually like focus on, because then we'd be in a better place. But like here, it is something else. But just where the execution, sadly, just feels really wanting more. And it's really hard to pin down. But I think we've got into it more so just with the balance. With Bill O'Neill just not being given enough to work with, although we get a lot of reaction shots, a lot into his psyche, sure, but I don't know. And again, maybe that's what I was going to say, was that if you're gonna make him kind of a Bill O'Neill be kind of a stand-in character, someone that everyone can kind of relate to as someone caught up in the middle, maybe explore that even a little bit more, like maybe shares motivations more, as opposed to, I don't know. It's hard to really pinpoint it. Or one, if you can't do that, as Steve was saying, if you can't execute that strategy, don't use that strategy. Then maybe just rely on Kaluuya a little bit more. I don't know. It's really, really hard to pinpoint for me exactly why it dips. But I mean, if anything, that's kind of a compliment in and of itself, because there's so many good things that are going here, but it just falls short. And I'm kind of rambling, going in circles, trying to figure it out. But I don't know who wants to take it here.
I was just gonna say.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you can give your star right. You can give your star rating right there. I think.
You're right. I'm gonna give this like just into a 3 out of 4 stars, just because the subject matter here is so revelatory. I hope there are hundreds of thousands of people who are gonna be like, "Holy shit!" Like they're gonna like look up Fred Hampton. They're gonna look up J. Edgar Hoover. But even more so than that. There are a lot of excellent performances here. Kaluuya steals the show. Lakeith Stanfield really does the absolute best that he can do with what he's given with, and certainly what he's given with is a lot already. I just think there just wasn't enough, or that it was directed a certain way. I think I need to watch it again to really, really make sure. And just how they paint Chicago, it is a cold, even when it's hot. The color palette is cold. The cops here are freaking overbearing, and I mean that's just how Chicago is, baby. If you're black, but
the roads will look like shit.
yeah, like motherfucker, it still does. But like that's just how Chicago is, and it really is. It feels like counter programming to Trial of Chicago 7, even though I do wind up liking 7 a little bit more here. But there's so much. I mean, dude, like Bobby Rush, who is still a congressman right now, U.S. congressman, former Black Panther, got elected, has been one of the longest running congressmen in U.S. federal Congress. And he still represents the South Side and a lot of Chicago. So like the history here it still affects today. And yeah, 3 out of 4 stars. It leaves wanting more, but man, there's a lot here that you can work with. So definitely worth your watch.
I'll be quick with my final thoughts, throw it over to Joe, and then going a little bit of OT over here with the final review. But like, I don't know if you guys were familiar with Shaka King in any ways before this, but I do remember.
Apparently,
I do remember. I did watch that about 8 years ago when that came out. He made a minor splash with his 2013 debut. It's called Newlyweds, and it was kind of like a really odd little dramedy. It wasn't bad. It was actually kind of fun. Before doing a lot of TV work. And now I think this is like I think this might be his first film since that one. So I was surprised when I saw his name again, because I even recognized it when I saw it. I was like, okay, I remember Newlyweds. It was actually one of the first movies I reviewed for Influx magazine back in the day. But Judas and the Black Messiah, like, it feels like his artistic manifesto in a lot of different ways, because it doesn't feel tethered to typical Hollywood framework. And I think even misgivings and all, that's sort of the most commendable aspect about this doesn't feel whitewashed Hollywood. This doesn't feel textbook historical drama. This feels urgent. This feels timely. This feels, again, like pro-radical, non-conformist, a lot of the things you don't associate with big Hollywood movies. And it fits comfortably with this recent surge of political films, as exhausting as they may be, but they help illustrate the how and why of how we got to this fractured reckoning that we've been experiencing now really since last summer in the middle of the pandemic. I love Daniel Kaluuya in this, though. I think I honestly would not have any complaints if he did get the Oscar for this performance. And again, it's going to be interesting too. I don't know. They're going to probably put him under supporting actor. I know that's a whole different debate. They're probably going to put him under supporting actor, which makes it interesting because you think but like, it makes it interesting because up until this point, I feel like Delroy Lindo was expected to be the winner with like the 5 Bloods. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. I know we got Oscar talk coming next month. I'm just getting ahead of myself, but Lakeith Stanfield's good for what he's given to work with. Ultimately, though, there's some structural and narrative issues here, but I don't think they take away from the overall urgency, at least in most cases. And also, don't sleep. We talked a lot about the 2 men. Don't sleep on Dominique Fishback either. She's very good here. And we talked about Project Power. We all weren't very high on it. You liked certain aspects of it. Not really an amazing film by any stretch of the imagination, but she showed a hell of a lot of promise in that movie, and she further delivers here. She's given a pretty good character. I give it a solid 3 out of 4 stars. I think this is a good, not great movie, but I don't want to start. I always say I don't want to get in the mindset of like blasting a good movie for not being great, even though there are some what I call misgivings. It seems nicer than flaws. I do say that this is a good movie. I would not advise against watching it.
Yeah. No. I mean, like, I'm kind of with both of you in terms of star ratings. It's also 3 out of 4 stars for me. For me, it's like all the negatives that we were giving. It's because we can see, like, for me, this could have been easily 3.5, maybe even 4 stars if everything we were talking about was done good or even like amazingly well. Like, it just came down to that. There's just aspects of this movie, a whole act, I would say, is where it kind of just takes a dip in quality compared to where it was at before. And it sucks that happens, but hey, like, we're just only being hard on it because it's like, one, we all like the movie and we just want to see more from a movie like this, especially dealing with a subject matter that is not really talked about. In terms of the movie itself, yeah, I'm right behind Steve. I hope Kaluuya gets a nomination, and if he gets that win, awesome. One last thing I really enjoyed about this movie, I really like that they touched on how Fred Hampton, he is a 21-year-old leading this Black Panther revolution. Now, yes, of course, like, me being 25 going on to 26, and it's like I only have a part-time job right now. I need to find a full-time job. It's just like, damn, I gotta work harder, I think. But I really like that aspect because it does touch on the fact that, yeah, like, his organization, as much power as he was bringing together, there were moments that he was kind of disorganized, or he did kind of go a little bit, like, he was being, what's the words I'm looking for, like, he would try to get the crowd riled up, and that, like, when people were like, yeah, let's shoot the cops, he's like, whoa, no, I didn't actually, like, mean that stuff, because he's a 21-year-old. He's not, like, an older man like Martin Luther King was, and how he knew how to organize everything. It does show, like, some of the faults that Fred Hampton had when it came to being an organizational leader, but hell, does it show his strengths and what he could have been if he wasn't assassinated? And that's
if he had time to learn.
Yeah, honestly, he did. And that's one aspect of the film I really do enjoy, is when they do touch on, like, how he is young and, like, he is inexperienced, but damn, he could have been somebody even more. Like, he could have really had a lot of experience and a lot of, like, wisdom and everything to share with tons of people. He didn't go at such a young age, which is sad to say. But
I was gonna say it could have been King, X, and Hampton.
Yeah,
truthfully,
for real.
I don't think that's an exaggeration.
For real. No. One Night in Miami would have been a whole different movie. The last thing I gotta say is this poor boy, Algie Smith, man. Can he not be in a movie where he doesn't get shot by the police? The Hate U Give, Detroit, and now this. It's like, dude, for real. Like, the guy, they did an interview over, like, Zoom, and the guy talks about the emotional baggage he takes by playing the same character that gets killed by the police. Can you please find this boy some other work? Please, anything. Just, I want him to make it to the end of the movie. He's the new horror movie, like, actor for me. I want him to make it to the end. But yeah,
I was just gonna say he should not take any horror movie roles.
For real. Judas and the Black Messiah, 3 out of 4 stars though. Very enjoyable film. Check it out.
That was a long review, but it was a good review. Tip of the cap to you guys. I don't want to go too far into overtime, so I'll try to make this review quick. Completely switching gears. How do you like these apples right now? How do you like these apples?
This is the greatest review after that one. This is the greatest, like, double feature here. Oh my god.
All right. Can I just say this? Dom's already used like 8 F-bombs over here, so we're not gonna be able to use the F word for the rest of the year, I think. But let me just say this, okay? I fucking love Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. Love this movie. This has a very good chance of making my year-end list. I gotta say, this has been a great 5 weeks of the year so far, 6 weeks, however long we're in now, of movies. There's been some good ones, and this is on the list. Now, I would get nothing but crap because this movie was supposed to come out last summer. I got nothing but crap with all my friends talking about how excited I was for this thing. This Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. This movie is very much like a wave, okay? You either ride it, you attempt to and sink like a stone, or you ignore it and say, who the hell would want to go near that? I rode this wave until it crashed into the end credits. from the first trailer of this movie, you should know whether or not you want to see this thing. And I'll say, if you're a fan of comedy, you're a fan of absurd, silly comedy that doesn't take place really in any kind of reality, you need to watch this thing. This is a wonderful comedy. It stars Annie Momola, and was a writer on Bridesmaids, and I think a co-actor in that movie too, and Kristen Wiig. They play Barb and Star respectively. They're these two middle-aged Nebraska women with like Yooper-esque, like Yooper dialect and how they speak. And essentially, the movie is about the two of them. They lose their job, and then they hear from at a furniture store. They lose their job, and then they hear from a friend that who went to Vista Del Mar. It's like an island of Florida. Like, it's a really nice place. You two deserve a vacation. You're both single. Go there and have some fun. So they do. And I'll say this: the marketing of this movie did a great job of hiding the villain of this. There's a whole subplot, and I hesitate to even explain the damn thing. But essentially, there's the villain of this movie, who's named something ridiculous like Sharon Gordon Fisherman or something like that, and is played by Kristen Wiig as well. The villain of this movie wants to unleash, to exact her revenge on the island of Vista Del Mar, wants to release these like genetically modified mutant killer mosquitoes on the island. And she sends her henchman, played by Jamie Dornan, down to the island to like get on the good side of Barb and Star, but then winds up falling in love with Star. The two start experiencing like the rivalry for the first time in their life. They try to pine for the affection of Edgar. Meanwhile, they have a real shot of potentially like dying from this mosquito infestation. This movie is nuts, and it's so serious, so silly. The plot is total folderol. Let me just say that. There's no desire on part of Molo and Wiig, who wrote this movie, to commit this story to any kind of believable reality. There's musical numbers, there's parachuting culottes, there's a talking crab named Morgan Freeman. Notice what I did there. It's all part of this ridiculously zany story that's so much fun. It's a cornucopia of color. Cinematographer Toby Oliver kind of takes a page out of Kyan Tran. I can never remember if I'm saying their name right. Kyan Tran's book from Palm Springs, the cinematographer for that movie. And just the aqua water, the radiant colors, how vibrant this movie is. This movie's gorgeous. And just the costumes. And it shows the comic power of Kristen Wiig and Annie Momola. There's a really good scene when they're on a plane, when they're going to the take a plane to Vista Del Mar. And they're both talking about how much they love the name Trish. And the whole plane ride is them going back and forth, creating this fictitious person named Trish. And like, oh, she loves the number 4. Oh, but she does not like the number 6. And they go back and forth the whole damn play ride, just like coming up with this whole story, right down to the point where she died. Like, they're getting off the plane talking about how Trish succumbs to her death. And damn, dude, like, this goes on for 2 minutes, and I believe it was improv, because it shows you the comic, how these two can freewheel with one another, how comfortable they are with one another. And this movie too, let me just say this, does the impossible. Kristen Wiig and Annie Momola's script, and Josh Greenbaum, who's the director of this, they gave Jamie Dornan an ounce of charisma. He's pretty good in this thing. Like, he actually has some really funny moments. Yeah, they give him a personality, and he's kind of
backhanded compliment I've heard.
Yeah, you sit through 350 Shades movies and you come see me. Moreover, though, I love a good soundtrack too. And Barb and Star is full of really fun original songs, and also great uses of some deep cuts, like Birdie Higgins' Florida, which I always thought sounds like a stock kind of music song, but it works in the way they use it here. And they also have this really awesome druggy remix of Jimmy Buffett's Cheeseburger in Paradise that, Jesus Christ, I love that whole scene. But anyway, this is Momolo and Wiig's comic opus, to say the least. Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar is what cult classics are made of. In a just world, we'll get a sequel to this movie. And there's even one excellent cameo I don't want to ruin either for the audience. It's $20 to rent. Highly recommend you do. I laughed my ass off throughout this movie. This would have been a beautiful piece of summer escapism, but it's really a fun comic romp. I think it's the best thing Kristen Wiig has put her name on, and that says something because Kristen Wiig's done some really outstanding work over the last several years. This is 3.5 out of 4 stars for me.
Wow.
Loved every minute of Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. It might make my top 10 of the year list, and I can't wait to be blasted by these guys. See this movie, Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar.
We have not seen it. I can't judge it.
Yeah,
I cannot judge it.
I'm not like my friends who would totally jump on me for saying something like that. No. I totally get it. When I came out of the theaters and I was like Paddington 2, best movie of the year, and everybody jumped on me, I was like, just go see the movie and then talk to me.
I will say, this movie is also not going to be everybody's bag. It's not going to be everybody's bag. But it's... If you want to have fun and you're into these like absurd, silly, kind of novel idea comic romps, this does it well.
Steve, what you described about how where Barb and Star talk about, they riff for like 2 full minutes about this fictional person named Trish, and they keep doing that running joke. That sound like on paper, that sounds like something that every single comedian led comedy movie tries to do, but horribly fail. Like the only time I've discounting this movie because I haven't seen it, but the only time I've really seen that is like The Other Guys, Adam McKay's The Other Guys, starring Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, where Will Ferrell goes on like a 2-minute tirade about being a shark who goes on land to eat Wahlberg or something. I don't know. But like, if you said that they were able to successfully like riff for that long and like actually improvise something good and accomplish what so many other comedians have tried to do, like say in The Lovebirds or whatever, then you know what? I should give this movie a watch as well.
I think you guys will enjoy it. Maybe not as much as me. I'm weird like that, but I had so much fun with this movie. Like I said, in a just world, we'll get a sequel to it. I don't know if they will, though. I don't think this movie was particularly cheap to make because they haven't released the budget of it. But like, there's a lot in this movie. There's a lot of extras. There's a lot of decent names in this. There's a lot of color, sets, costumes. I would guess this was probably a $25 to $30 million production. I mean, this is not a cheap movie. It doesn't look it, at least. Especially for some high-dollar cameos, too. And like I said, including one I don't want to ruin at the end. See this movie, though. You can rent it on Amazon Prime, Google Play, Vudu, all the like. It's $20 now, which also kind of pisses me off, too, because it's like Our Friend. I try to recommend these movies to people that are, like, really good, but then they're, like, turned off by the thought of paying $20 for them, which like, pisses me off to a certain degree, because it's like I wish these movies were cheaper or they were on a service, because all the crap movies half the time it seems like go to these services, and then like the other ones that are really good are supposed to go to theaters, you got to pay $20 for. That's unattractive to a lot of people. But I'll end by saying this: Judas and the Black Messiah is on HBO Max. Barb and Star is on premium video on demand. You won't go wrong watching either movies, in my opinion. But excellent show, guys. I think we had a good time on this one. A little late, but that's okay. Malcolm and Marie next week. Have either of you two seen Malcolm and Marie yet?
No, not yet.
No.
Oh, you guys are for a doozy. This is going to be a good conversation. I can't wait. The only thing I'll say is that there's some real free smoke they dish to film critics in this. I can't wait to discuss that.
I'm always down for that. I'm always down for it. Bring it back on me. Hell yeah. I'm told I should not watch that movie with my girlfriend. I don't know why, but I'm told. I don't know, but looks interesting.
Oh yeah, it's not a first date movie. You two have been together for like 20 years, so like I think it'll be fine on that note. But yeah, can't wait to talk Malcolm and Marie next week. The Zendaya and John David Washington movie, and that was another movie too where I was like, I was getting nervous after Tenet, but I watched Malcolm and Marie. I'm like, oh, John David Washington, he does have a personality. Okay, so that's a lie. I saw him in BlacKkKlansman. At any rate, going way too long over here. I'm riffing like Barb and Star. This is Sleepless with Steve. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening, 8 o'clock Central Time, coast to coast. Highlights be posted on the YouTube channel you're watching now, youtube.com/MovieWiz1, or just search Sleepless with Steve. Next week, we're coming at you with Malcolm and Marie review, along with some other movie news. Been a little slow, but we'll unearth some stuff and talk about it next week. Looking forward to it. I'm Steve Pulaski, Joe Viso in the hoodie, Dominic Guanzon in the sharp blue polo. This has been Sleepless with Steve.